What is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another live edition of the Kingdom Says. I am your host, as always, Garrett Williams. Tonight, I'm just joined by one big, beautiful man, Mr. Thomas Pike, Arrowhead Tom. How you doing, Tom?
Oh, I am doing well. I don't know if you watched me panic and realized I didn't have my virtual background up, and very quickly threw that on so that you guys cannot observe the dead bodies that I keep stacked behind me in my recording room.
Mm-hmm.
But that was indeed a thing. Um, yeah, but I'm
Yeah,
good, man. I'm
good.
ready for another week of football. It's finally kind of enjoyable again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, optimistic, and it's Raiders week, so
Yeah,
that's always fun uh, to just feed our unfiltered hatred of another organization that, yeah,
yeah,
we
yeah.
hate
It's
those
you're right. It's always a good one. Raiders week of one of the oldest rivalries in Chiefs history, or in NFL history, really. Like this been going back for since the '60s. These two teams have been playing, and it's always a good one. It's always a bitter one. You know, both these teams are very familiar with each other. A lot of animosity in previous years with some iterations of the Raiders. This year it's a little bit different. You know, this year is going to be a little bit different. They got Pete Carroll there for his first season. Geno Smith, the quarterback over there, which is a kind of an odd one. Not too many people kind of left over from the previous regimes of the Raiders, outside of guys like Max Crosby, obviously, who's a really big staple. Um, there's a couple other guys that have been there for a year or two, but mostly, I mean, it's a very new team. It's kind of hard. It's interesting in this era. I've kind of heard it talked about as kind of the talk about rivalries and how, if it's a really one sided one like the Chiefs and Raiders one has been the past few years, how does that fire in a rivalry kind of continue when so many new players on the Raiders side, especially coming in and kind of having to just embrace this culture of like, hey, this is my first year here. I barely even, we're trying to just become a successful team again. I don't know how much hate I have for the Chiefs, but I don't know
games.
how that might go in the locker room.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes I think it looks differently, and it's a culture thing with teams. There used to be, I joke about the hatred and like the rivalry of the fan bases. Um, you know, I think Andy Reid is a good example of how it's a little bit different because they treat these rivalry games as you just know there's extra motivation there, right? We've listened to them talk for years about the first step is winning the division, right? That's their formula, and so I think from the successful side of things, you look at it as at least since Andy's been here, these opponents are our main um, obstacles to get to our first goal, right? Our first step to the Super Bowl, which I think is why you look at Andy's record against divisional rivals, and it's always been good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they've always, I mean, what are we on? How many straight division titles now? Um,
It's 8, 9.
8, 9? I think we're on 9.
Yeah.
Um, so I think in some ways it's different with how Andy goes about it because like there are some teams that like you know they just do it out of pure hatred for each other. The AFC North feels like there's a lot of that, and the Chiefs and the Raiders I think used to be that way. It's not been as competitive, obviously. I mean, the Raiders have gotten a couple here or there, um, but really since Andy's been in town, it's been the Chiefs.
Yeah.
But that's been the truth for just about every divisional rival.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I hear that. I think again, it's just different for the Chiefs side of things. And if anything, there's a little bit of a disadvantage because I think sometimes the divisional rivals, they try to use that as motivation to play up to the competition. And again, these guys they see each other twice a year, every year. And I know the rosters change, but Max Crosby is still there. Uh, yeah, Max Crosby is still there.
That's all I was kind of thinking of the intro too. I was like, how many other people have been there for multiple
Uh,
years? Not many.
I know Devin White is over there as a Raider talking some loose
Yeah.
trash. I don't know what he's doing.
Kind of acting
He
crazy over
really did.
the
He
game.
did have his moment in that
Yeah.
playoff run, and then became complete garbage. But um, yeah, I'm not worried about all that. But I do think that there's always a little bit more. At least for the Chiefs, it's a very much this is business. We got to take care of business. Uh, a more focused approach.
Yeah, definitely more. Got to be dialed in. These are the guys that, like you said, it starts the path to the Super Bowl for every team. It starts with winning your division. Like that's the easiest way to do it. So a lot of the teams, you sculpt your roster in the offseason to prepare for your division. That's a big thing that the Raiders have tried doing for many many years. There was many years where they just draft the fastest defensive players available just to try to keep up with Tyreek Hill and the Chiefs offense in the early Mahomes days. And it's kind of you're still preparing for it. That's still a big factor in your mind. Like, hey, if you want to win the division, you have to beat the people who have won the division for the past 9 years. So you have to have a lot more game plan. You're a lot more dialed into your game plan studying. That's a lot more of the off-season planning of preparing for the Chiefs. A lot more ahead of time than just your random other opponent. So it's definitely big for the teams, and especially for the Chiefs side. You always see Andy Reid and it always means a little more to the Chiefs. Pat Mahomes is obviously you know, he's not afraid to flex on some people and show off a little bit. And the Chiefs have been known to run some cool plays versus the Raiders in Raiders week. There was the snow globe play that happened a couple years ago. You always see some kind of Andy Reid versus the division. It's like, all right, I'm just going to bust out some crazy trick plays just to kind of assert the dominance back over the division. Let hey, this is still our house. So, and like I said, it's been very one sided. The Raiders did get us on Christmas a couple years ago. There's been a couple times in the Mahomes era, but for the most part, I mean, it's especially how these two teams look. I mean, the Raiders are 2-4 coming into this game. Chiefs are 3-3. Bit of a struggle for the Raiders to start the season so far. I think you could easily say with the new regime coming in, Pete Carroll, Geno Smith. You can't necessarily expect it to be super smooth right out the box when you don't necessarily have like some big, firepower kind of big play guy that you're bringing in on into the team. Like Geno's fine. He's a okay quarterback. He did good in Seattle, but it's not like he's really game changing for you that much. He's a good cog in the wheel, like kind of Alex Smith was back in the day. As we have the artist Chief looking like he's joining us. What's up, Corey?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Awesome.
What do you kind of think about this Raiders team early on in their run?
Man, I don't. It's hard because, like I said, it's a division game. Anything can happen. I think this is a note that NFL owners and I will say more specifically owners, but general managers to fall into this trap of, hey, these guys were successful somewhere else. Let's just try to copy and paste. So
Big on
a
the
little
Raiders
bit of
roster right
that, and
now.
that feels like the formula that the Raiders are trying to do, and that's not really conducive to actual success in the NFL. I don't know. Really, the only time that's ever worked is when the Broncos went, let's just go get Peyton Manning. And they're like, yeah,
Yeah,
because it turns out Peyton Manning's just a good football player or was a
that's the
good football
difference. Yeah.
player. And I like Pete Carroll. He's been a fun coach to watch, from afar.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's loved by his players. Um, love the score prediction from Corey.
Corey is very confident.
I don't disagree. The real question is how many of those are going to be Rashee Rice touchdowns?
Mm.
But yeah, I think I think not a lot about this Raiders team, honestly, and that's probably a mistake. I probably now that I've said that out loud, it'll probably be a close game, and maybe we get, I'll have egg on my face, but it feels like again they're trying to copy and paste the kind of the formula from Seattle, and I'm not just saying that because of the Geno connection, but also hey, we're investing heavily in a running back and trying to build a defense, and so yeah, now I got to do math. Yeah, I guess that would be
That
10.
would be yeah.
All of them. So yeah, I'm not too too concerned. And that's not meant to be disrespectful to any of them. I just, like I said, I think as an idea, right, the copy and paste of head coach, quarterbacks, whatever, different positions, or trying to emulate success from another like franchise to your, you just can't really import it that way. That's not how
Yeah.
it works. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. Like I
Yeah,
said,
we can kind of dive
Carroll's been
into the
around for a
matchup.
while.
Yeah, he has been. Yeah, and it's like you said, it's kind of a recast. They have a lot of characters from different teams that have had little bits of success. Obviously, Gino coming in. You have other guys. Like I know, like Jeremy Chin is like a random guy. They have Eric Stokes, like just random kind of players that were, a little bit hyped before on other teams, and now they're with the Raiders. So let's dive into the matchup a little bit here. Obviously, Chiefs on the Chiefs side of the ball this week. There's been one really, really big storyline. There's been one also pretty big storyline that you could say. We're going to touch on the one storyline a lot, and we're going to touch on the other storyline not that much, probably. Rashee Rice is returning. We're going to talk about that a lot. The situation we're not going to talk about too much, but we're going to hit on it a little bit. The Josh Simmons situation that's been, big in the media and the news for the past week or so, ever since he missed last week's game, and the I guess there's the mystique around the situation that Josh Simmons isn't with the team right now. He's excused for personal family matters. He's already been ruled out for this Raiders game after missing last week as well, where we saw Joan Moore step in and perform pretty well in his absence. So, it's a strange situation that not a lot of us necessarily need to know about, although it's weird that you don't know where your starting left tackle is necessarily. I'm sure some people know for sure, but the general public really doesn't, Tom, and it's just kind of a weird one.
It is weird. We were talking before the show, and I'll say this because I think Chiefs Twitter is a weird place sometimes. There's nothing wrong with wanting to know. I think as a fan of the team and as somebody who's invested, I mean, I told you, Garrett, straight up, I want to know. One,
Yeah.
I'm nosy, I'll admit it.
I'd like to know
But
too.
also,
Yeah.
this is a guy I've one of the Chiefs draft. I mean, how long have I been talking about Josh Simmons? So I'm kind of invested a little bit in him as a player, right? I don't know him personally. What gets frustrating, there's two sides of it. One, when people, like try to make a moral grandstand of like, oh, you shouldn't want to know. You can want to know. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with wanting to know what's going on. Totally cool. When you get into the territory where you're speculating and trying to connect dots and you're starting to look like the guy from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where he's connecting the boards, what's the actor's name? Charlie something. Especially about a matter that's clearly very private, very important. I said this before we got on. We're talking about, um, the social media being deleted. This is probably why.
Yeah.
It's clearly something that is personal. I will defer a little bit to what Nate Taylor, the ESPN reporter for the Chiefs and longtime Chiefs reporter, who is as well connected as anybody to this organization. And when he says, "Hey, mum's the word," there's a reason for that. And he said that it's very serious. We're not talking about somebody who's missing games because, of something not serious. Obviously, I was
Something more trivial or something. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not over there searching through his storage units for his lost Beanie Baby collection. It's not something like that.
Yeah.
There's, again, this is where the frustration comes with people speculating. Is it one person said it was a family matter, but then they said it's not a matter, and I think what we know is that this is a deeply personal and deeply difficult time for Josh, and I think the organization is in a position where they know that respecting the privacy is important, and expecting or begging or asking people, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird to go, well, we should know what's going on, but also we should respect his privacy. We can let it go, guys. It sucks that he's not there. I love watching him play. I am hopeful that he makes it back to the football field when the time is right. But there are things bigger than football. And I think my biggest takeaway is this weird back and forth of like, well, you have to have an exact opinion and you have to decide if you want to know or you don't want to know. And I bet you it's this or I bet you it's that, and that's where we get very toxic very quick. I want to know. It's not my business. We'll let it go, right? Let him focus on things that he needs to focus on. And again, let's not connect dots. We don't need to connect. Deleting social media doesn't mean anything other than he probably doesn't want to deal with this BS, which, sometimes I want to delete it when we're acting this way about, the moral grandstanding and the conspiracy theories and all of that. So whatever's going on with Josh and his family, or not his family, whatever's going on, period. And I think there's been a more consistent message that it is a family matter. Whatever's going on, hope that it turns out as best as it can. And I think hopefully behind all of that, Josh knows that there's a lot of people in Chiefs Kingdom rooting for him personally and professionally. So that's what I hope is the takeaway here. And that's what I hope we can rally around.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a good way it's a good summary of the situation. We're definitely thinking of Josh in this time, and it's life is bigger than football. Definitely don't ever that's what a lot of people have been stressing. Like, hey, we're playing a game. Like, obviously it's a really big, a lot of money and notoriety and all this stuff, but it's just a game. Like, life has to come before all this stuff, and Josh has to get in the right mindset to come back. And I'd be more worried if it was like playoff times, but it's week 7, and we have a competent left tackle backup that he seems to be doing well. Obviously you'd like to see Josh out there, but it's not the end of the world in any sense. So, we all want to know, but we're not entitled to know, and we should just leave it at that. And eventually we'll probably know more, and we just got to be patient. We just got to be patient, and definitely thinking of Josh and whatever situation's going on with him. Transitioning to more happy thoughts, Rashee Rice, EGE, is making his return after 384 days, I believe, since his last regular season appearance for the Chiefs. Rashee Rice is back. That is music to my ears. I am very excited for the prospect of this. For those of you who don't know, Rashee Rice is really good. I mean, he is a really, really good receiver. In his year and a quarter season that he's played, he was just off the charts, Tom. I mean, he was the guy that you liked a lot in the pre-draft process, and was just surprised us a lot by how quickly he kind of took over the offense. And by the start of last year, he was the offense and he was dominating in it. I think you could easily say that Rashee Rice is a top 10 receiver in the NFL right now. A lot of people have been saying it. You could even argue maybe higher than top 10. So it's a really, really big weapon that the Chiefs are getting back. Obviously, a big part of their offense and how they've planned this whole resurgency of the receiver room with Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown, and now having all three of them on the field at the same time. I'm excited, Tom. I'm excited. This is going to be a good time.
Yeah, no, if your nipples aren't a little hard about this, I don't know. You should probably check your pulse.
Yeah.
This is live. You can't edit that out. That's all right. That's all right. Down with censorship. Yeah, no, man, I really like, like you said, I've been on the Rashee Rice bandwagon for a while. I almost feel a little bad because I'm like, all right, guys, like I'm really high on Rashee Rice, but like let's tone it down a little bit, just because, I mean, even though as our friend Corey in the chat is pointing out, we're expecting 10 touchdowns, and I agree. I think he's underrated. Oh crap, Kyle's here.
Kyle,
no.
Hello,
Kyle. Don't worry about it, Kyle. It's fine. The podcast is going great.
Yeah.
Shout out to Kyle. supporting us, even though he's got some uh, good family things going on. But
Yeah.
yeah, holy cow, I think that it's not just the excitement of getting Rashee Rice back as a player, but the dimension of his play that he brings to the game. Um, um, yeah, I think that the spacing piece with Xavier Worthy over the top,
Hmm.
Travis
Hmm.
Rasheed working the middle and intermediate parts of the field. You have Hollywood who can work all over the field. We know that Thornton can be mixed in as a gadget, as a deep threat, all that stuff. Like you can really pick how you want to attack a secondary now. Um, Really, what Rashee Rice does in a big way is gives you another legitimate threat kind of between the hashes. And he also, towards the end of his rookie season, showed some of those deep ball skills, which was not something that people anticipated, but he has it. So the other thing is like him and Pat have great chemistry. Um, I know there's a bunch of butthurt Lions fans out there complaining about the hype videos. Listen, the hype video isn't about him coming back from suspension. Okay, this is a kid who, in his first game and his was it the first game or the second game? It was the first game, right, of his second year, or maybe his second game. Either way, he tore his ACL. Has been working back from that, right? Yes, the legal stuff happened. Yes, there was, all of that that's documented. We've talked about that plenty. It's not about coming back from suspension. It's about getting back to play football. 384 days for a professional football player is, a long time, especially a young player. He's had a phenomenal rookie season. Third game. Thanks, Kyle. Um, yeah, phenomenal rookie season, and then has had to wait. And the wait is over as of this Sunday.
Yeah. It's so exciting. Yeah, just the prospect of adding him back into the offense. Like you said, the yards after catches, he's one of the best in the league at is intermediate and underneath routes and all that stuff. Like he was raking in yards like nobody's business. The separation numbers were crazy. I mean, the contested catch rate, everything. I mean, all the numbers, all the advanced metrics you could add. I mean, it's just phenomenal. And adding him, like you said, you have all these deep threats now. You have your full offense unlocked. Like this is exciting time, especially like Kyle said in the chat right here, a very questionable Raiders secondary. You're coming in with all of these big pieces now. You have deep threats, you have underneath guys, intermediate. I mean, you have everything. You can attack at every level of the field. You can't like the defense can't prepare for one person or two people. Like there's so many people. Like everybody's gonna eat. It's literally it's like that's exactly why the thing. Like there's so many like talented dudes now that are out there. It's just crazy. Like this, you know, I guess we should dial in our expectations a little bit with the fact that he has been out for so long, and you know, is he in game shape? Obviously, he's been training. He was with the team all training camp, all that stuff. He's been training out while he's been under suspension, and there might be a little rust initially, but it seems like per reports they're gonna pretty much just give him the workload. They're just gonna give him everything, and it's gonna be a great time. 451. It's gonna be together for the first time since the whole plan. This is the whole plan for the receiver room. Is the Legion of Zoom 2.0, as the artist chief Corey says. It's like this is the plan to give Pat a whole new roster of receivers after a couple bad years of receiver rooms. And the plan just never came to fruition with Hollywood Brown getting injured and then Rashee Rice getting injured and now Rashee's suspension. Like it's finally all culminated into exactly what the full offense. And you might not even get the full offense yet. This is just going to be testing the waters of you coming into a team that, not to disrespect the Raiders even more than we already have, but like Kyle said, the secondary is a little questionable. They've given up a good amount of yards and points this season to their opponents. So with this, I mean, with the firepower you have, you can probably come in with a fairly vanilla game plan and just kind of get him back working, get all the pieces moving, get the things to put on tape, and come out of this with a fairly convincing win. And if I'm predicting, I mean, that's just how I kind of see the game going. Not to mention the fact that we're actually running the ball properly now. Like that's a whole nother element of the offense. Like, how do you think overall? Like, is it going to be that big of a show this first week back, or do you think it might take a little bit of time to kind of fully unlock this team.
I don't know if I want it to be a show as much as I want it to be efficient, and I want it to run like a well-oiled machine. That's really what I think would be the most um, compelling, right? Because I think, like you said, there's a little bit of like we said, Rashee's been working hard
Yeah, he's been
even
hard.
before the suspension. He's coming back from an injury. That's the big piece of this. Um, Obviously, nobody here supports or condones what Rashee Rice has done, or the decision that he made that day. He's been open and done what he's supposed to do. So yeah, this is about him coming back from that injury. I just want to see an efficient offense. I think it's interesting when Corey brought up the Legion of Zoom 2.0, like because I started by saying like, hey, let's not try to copy and paste, but if you kind of squint at this team and this wide receiver room, you start to see kind of how the different roles are being played, and Tyreek and Xavier and Rashee and Sammy, right? Sammy Watkins. Like there's a little bit of overlap in terms of the skill. We don't necessarily need to get into the caliber of players, but I think I will say it's probably the most well-rounded group that Pat has gotten to play with since those years with Sammy Watkins and Tyreek, and obviously Travis still here. He's a little slower, a little older, but still Travis. We saw that last week. Still plenty of gas in the tank. I think the expectations are high. Awesome. Let's just be on the same page. Let's continue to look efficient like we did last week against the Lions, and we can save the fireworks for when we need the fireworks. Is I guess what I would. I'm not going to object if they want to, bust out some fun things and take a couple of deep shots against.
I won't object if they decide to run out of fireworks in the stadium like they have in the past. Like, oh, that's fine by me if they have too many touchdowns and the fireworks can't keep up. But obviously efficiency in the offense it's pretty consistently seems to start with the pass protection. That's been a big thing. When pass protection is good, the offense is good. When pass protection is bad, the offense isn't that good. So coming in, the Raiders' defensive line, obviously Max Crosby is the big thing. And we just saw last week Aiden Hutchinson, another really top-tier pass rusher. You could probably put Max in front of him, but probably not by much. Like, they're both super talented dudes, relentless motor. Like, Max Crosby is definitely one of the best in the league and has a pretty good dial on the Chiefs now. I mean, he's always one that you can probably get to show up and perform pretty well versus the Chiefs. He's a lot more old school in the sense of like he's going to maintain that rivalry, that bitter hatred of the other team. Like even though like I think it's been said, him and Pat are friends outside of the game, but for 2 weeks every year they're not friends. So him coming in, you're obviously probably going to be lined up against either Jalen Moore or Jawan Taylor. Either way, I think it's a decent matchup for him. I'm not sure which side he prefers. I'm sure he's like all top pass rushers, he flips to both sides whenever he feels like it. But outside of him, not a lot of other threats on that defensive line. They have Malcolm Kuntz as the other defensive end, Adam Butler and Thomas Booker IV as their defensive tackles. A couple other.
I don't know if I want to go that far because they do have some guys who've gotten some pressure this year.
Okay.
Jonah Laula, 4 sacks. Malcolm Kuntz had a pretty good game against us back on that Christmas Eve game, and has been an okay player for them. They're not guys that keep you up at night, but I don't want to completely. If there's a part that makes me that goes, hey, this could influence the game from the defensive side of the Raiders, it is that defensive line. I think that it's kind of clearly their best unit. So, I didn't realize that they had Jamal Adams playing linebacker for them.
Yeah, he's just a full-on linebacker now. I've heard since he signed there, you're like, you know what? I'm not doing this whole coverage thing no more. Let me just blitz people and hit people in the box. That's his whole. He's a box safety his whole career anyway, so it makes sense. I don't even know how old is Jamal Adams at this point. He's 30. 30. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like he's just been in the league forever. 9 years, I guess he has, but that's just. It's good to see him still kicking it out there. With that being said, not necessarily intimidated by Jamal Adams at this point in career, nor am I intimidated by the other linebacker over there, Devin White, who you referenced earlier as talking a lot of smack after a lot of questionable performance. I mean, he did have the Super Bowl 5 years ago, so shout out to him. Shout out to that. The last time I think the Bucs and the Chiefs met, he got juked out of his shoes by Patrick Mahomes on that goal line toss to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That was a pretty good one. So he's talking. He's very confident. Like Kyle said, if they decide that he's the matchup for Travis, that'd be hilarious because
That'd be pretty
I don't
great.
like his chances. So
Mhm.
not too intimidated by those guys. They also have a Landon Roberts over there, Tommy Eichenberg, who's a Notre Dame guy. Shout out Kyle. So I mean, linebacker room. I don't know if I'm necessarily intimidated by that. The run game. Overall, I feel like the run game. I feel like you can establish it more on this defensive front seven of the Raiders. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Devin White's, I mean, he's fast, but I think I don't worry too much about him. If you get hands on him, Devin's decently sized. Roberts is 5'11", 235. That's their middle linebacker. So, I think there should be room to run if you can get past. Again, they've got some big guys up front, but I'm not. Yeah, like I said, there should be plenty of room for the offense to do their stuff. I'm not losing sleep over their linebacker room at all.
And their secondary, same thing. I mean, their secondary is not super. I mean, like I mentioned a couple guys. Eric Stokes, former first-round pick for the Packers, who went over this season. Jeremy Chin was a good player for the Panthers for a couple years there.
Yeah.
So, Caillou Blue Kelly, he's just, I feel like a pretty notable name that keeps on hanging around the league. So there's a couple, faces there. DeCameron Richardson, he was a guy. Weren't you high on him in the draft?
No, you're thinking of Darian Porter.
Okay, well, him too. So, Darren, that's the other corner. Yeah,
Porter's the 6'2" guy, run the 4.
Yeah, so they're a blossoming young secondary potentially, and maybe not quite up to the task of 451 coming right down their throats. Whoa. So what do you think, Tom? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Eric. Again, these are where they've kind of, and I don't mean this to any disrespect. I think that they've got a lot of young guys on their defense that this is kind of their second, third, maybe last chance. Some players who have been good, productive players at times in their career, but whether it's injuries or other stuff has derailed them. You again, rivalry game. All these guys are trying to make a name for themselves. You never want to underestimate how all that looks, but at the same time, the matchup on paper looks pretty favorable for the Chiefs' offense forward.
I'd say so. Yeah, I think that's going to be the more confident side of the ball. I mean, we'll transition over to the defense as a transition, I should say. Well, that'll be the transition. Boom, transition over to the defense. Just declare it, and then it's transitioned. Offense, I think, will be fine. Defense, I think will also be probably fine. The theme of the defense this year has been the first 15, not good, right? The offense, the opposing team's first 15 plays, the first drive and a half, they're going to get you. They're going to get you a couple times. Just after that, though, the defense wakes up. They kind of figure it out more. Geno Smith is Geno Smith. He's I compared him to Alex Smith earlier, so that's kind of how I feel about Geno Smith. He's good, but not great. And this year, he's not been playing the greatest of ball. He's definitely been not necessarily replicated the success that he had in Seattle, probably because you don't have DK Metcalf over there. That's a big, or Tyler Lockett or Jackson Smith and Jigba. You don't have
also 35 years old.
Yeah, that's true. He had that little late career resurgence for a couple years, but it's might be flatlining in a little bit. Not the greatest of weapons for him. Brock Bowers obviously is a really good player. He is doubtful for the game though, so he's been out for a couple weeks after I think a foot surgery or something like that took him out. So the weaponry, Michael Mayer's good. He's a like second or third year player I think probably for him at this point.
Yeah,
pretty talented dude. But I don't know. I mean, it's not the most intimidating of secondaries. Trey Tucker is a guy who sneakily actually is pretty good. He's a real explosive kind of yards after catch guy once again. Jacoby Myers, I know he was questionable for this game, even if he's at like 80 or 85%. He's usually like a big focal point of this Raiders offense.
I think the Chiefs have kept Jacoby Myers employed in and Las Vegas just because he
Yeah.
always plays the Chiefs. He seems to have his best games of the year against the Chiefs. Again, another rivalry factor kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's easy. He always seems to show up. It seems like after as just a random character. So outside of them, though, I mean, Alex Bachman is another receiver for him who's questionable for the game on the injury report. They have Dante Thornton Jr., who's gotten a little bit of had a little bit of success this year on some deep stuff, but not really. So really, I mean, Ashton Genty is kind of their big. That's kind of their big thing on offense. That was they spent the number 3 overall pick on him, number 4, something
Number
like that.
6.
Number 6. Okay, so pretty high for a running back. Obviously, Genty was really good in college at Boise State. One of the best running backs in the nation, easily. Probably my favorite running back in the draft, if I had to say. Going to the Raiders now, he's been adapting. They've been getting him rolling more and more as the weeks go on. They don't have the greatest of O lines for him to run behind, but Genty is a guy that he can make things happen without blocking. So, how do you kind of anticipate that matchup going?
The Brock Bowers being out is that's really rough for them. Geno Smith, I'm old enough to remember when I followed the draft long enough to remember when we were debating if we should take Geno Smith number 1 overall instead of Eric Fisher.
Yeah.
Remember those days, the good old days. Genty's awesome, but running backs can't do it themselves. You got to have an offensive line in front of you. Like you said, Trey Tucker has given us trouble before. He's one of those slippery little guys who I think just benefits from working through the zone that the Chiefs sometimes run, but I don't. Again, he might get some yards on us, but not worried about him like beating us. Jack Besh I don't think we talked about him. Rookie wide receiver at TCU. Really cool story. Really cool kid. Still kind of growing, developing. I think the Chiefs secondary matches up really well. I really want to see the matchup with Noel Williams and Jacoby Myers. I do think Jacoby Myers is a good wide receiver, and he's a very physical wide receiver in a way that I think people underrate. And he kind of wins with the nuance, and so it's a good kind of litmus test for Noel Williams' ability to do some of those more veteran kind of hand fighting moves downfield and understanding leverages and route breaks and that kind of thing. And so I'm interested in that matchup in particular. This offensive line is rough. It is rough, man. And they don't have a lot of depth. Yeah, Kyle agrees.
Yep.
Can we just talk about? I want to start with maybe the most important piece of this offensive line, and that is the name of their right tackle.
It's a great name, yeah. DJ
Glaze. That is somebody who
born to be a club DJ.
Talk about Krispy Kreme donuts and music. That is not a right tackle in the NFL. Yeah. I don't believe you.
His parents had him said he needs to be a DJ. He's got to be in the club up there spinning tracks. But nope, instead he's a right tackle.
Yeah. Also, the interior of their line is one of the weirdest things I think I've seen a team do. So Jackson Powers Johnson was a good NFL center last year, right?
Yeah. Besides that,
and they moved him to guard
against the Chiefs. But
yeah,
outside of that,
but they moved him to guard, and it feels like everybody got a little bit worse when they did that. Their interior is okay. Dylan Parham has been around. One star.
At the way DJ Glaze.
If the Raiders have any injuries on the offensive line this year or in this game, it could get ugly fast. Stone Forsythe was a 6th round pick. He's their left tackle. There's stuff to be had there. He's been okay. He's kind of a backup level swing tackle kind of level player. Behind him is Charles Grant, who is a fun developmental player. They took in the 3rd round this year. Probably a year away from being able to seriously play, and there were questions about if he could play at left tackle. Again, the depth interior outside, they've only got 3 tackles on their roster. So one of them goes down. Charles Grant's going to be put in action. Not that we're hoping for anything like that, obviously, but it's a young line. It's an inexperienced line. It doesn't have a lot of depth. Um, and I think, ooh, Scout is upset about the line. I think that they're going to have a lot of trouble navigating with the Spagnuolo blitzes. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to pause this and let Scout out of the room. Well, I'm not going to pause. I'm going to mute myself and let Scout out of the room. Garrett, keep talking. I will be here. I just will be off screen.
Okay, very good. Yeah,
Don't panic. Don't go away. I promise I'm here.
Tom will be back. Don't worry.
Do not warn.
Yeah, so Tom made some great points. Glad that he's still with us, as he just said. Yeah, big thing is the fact that Steve Spagnuolo is going to salivate over this offensive line, and we always kind of say, we always mention the fact that Chiefs go up against a little bit weaker of offensive lines, and they don't end up performing to that nature. That's mostly the front four kind of winning. They've had trouble. The front four has had trouble getting pressure all year. Chris Jones has been having an okay year. George Karlaftis has been having an okay year. Outside of that, it's been kind of hit or miss with some of the defensive lines. So, figuring out new ways to win and get creative with how they roll out those packages and stuff like that. I think they're still developing that a lot. This is a good test. This is another good, opponent to go against as far as offensive line of a little bit different style. I think they're a little bit heavier on, the power kind of side of the offensive line. If you were to look at it, like definitely, a little bit bigger guys, not as agile and athletic as you might see like the Chiefs offensive line, for example. So a little bit different test of an opponent. See what they can kind of dial up. This seems like a week where you would dial up a lot of blitzes, a lot of those corner blitzes. We haven't seen the corner blitz too much. It's been a lot of like interior blitzes up the middle with linebackers and stuff like that, it seems like. So the dialing up some corner blitzes, just getting pressure on Geno, making him uncomfortable back there is key to disrupting their offense, or any team's offense really, is getting the quarterback uncomfortable in those situations. And Geno's not necessarily creating a lot after the play at this point in his career. So if you can just get him outside, get him antsy in there, and if he escapes the pocket, you should be able to contain him pretty nice. It's not like we're going against, even Jared Goff had a couple decent runs on us. So I guess anyone can run on this Chiefs defense if they really believe hard enough. But obviously the motto has always been bend, don't break. And that's what the Chiefs have been thriving on for these past couple of weeks, is just kind of figuring things out, making adjustments, and especially coming out of halftime most games, it's kind of a different defense. And as long as obviously the offense is holding up good, I think the defense can win as well, and hopefully put together a pretty good performance on both sides of the ball, Tom.
Yeah, I think you talked about like the first 15 and the defense responding to certain things, and again, Spagnuolo likes to save some things, but also they shouldn't have to get too creative to get to the quarterback with this offensive line. They should be able to play some mix and match some coverage looks. So I think I feel really good about it. Again, they don't have to bring out their best stuff and try to embarrass somebody necessarily, but I think if they can just make, again, that bend don't break attitude, get some sacks, because again, kind of continue to build that confidence. It should be a good matchup across the board. Very excited to see how the defensive line performs. Really hopeful that some of the young guys, Gelati and Norman Lott, can get some extra snaps in this game, get some extra looks, get a few more reps on tape, because we've seen flashes from them. We haven't seen them really get. Norman Lott's had a sack, I think, and Gelati's had a couple of close calls, but we really want to see them some more reps, and hopefully get a nice lead so we can maybe let Chris Jones take a breather here or there.
Yeah, for real, that would be nice. Norman Lott coming back after missing last week too. So that's good that he's back in the rotation, and we can kind of maybe takes a little bit more of that pressure off of Chris, get some other guys rolling in there. Charles Omeni, who just had his first sack of the year last year, so maybe he can pick up the pace a little more, carry a little more weight. And Mike Dana is still having a quietly okay season, not necessarily lighting up the stat sheet, but the run game aspect of him has been all right. So that's been the big thing, is the Chiefs have been really good. The defense has been really good about containing running backs this year. There hasn't been a lot of, even the one of the best running back duos in the league last year is held to, or last week was held to under 100 yards between Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. So they just got Ashton Genty. Really, I know he'll probably get a couple yards, but I think there's a good game plan then in place that they can limit him and then limit the rest of that offense to having a pretty good performance. I think I like I said, I think it matches up. I think we match up pretty well against that offense and how they're kind of formulated. That West Coast kind of Pete Carroll scheme is it's predictable, and Spags has seen that a lot. Spags is obviously very familiar with going up against those type of offenses. So yeah, I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be good. Special teams, Tom, any worries about special teams on this game? Is Harrison Butker going to miss another kick?
Probably.
Probably. Yeah, it's
It'll be
probably
the
going to
first time
happen.
he's missed a kick in every game. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's a get right game. I have no idea.
I don't know. Yeah, it's so weird.
I'm hoping we don't have to worry about it until we have to worry about it. But yeah. And again, nobody's rooting. I said this last time. I understand there's a lot of people who dislike Butker because of his political stuff, his personal beliefs. I get that. That's not our podcast.
Yeah.
That's not the place for it. This is a Chiefs podcast. I want what's best for the Chiefs, and what's best for the Chiefs is that man making his damn kicks. So I'm not rooting for him to fail at kicking field goals or extra points.
Yeah.
And he's a kicker, so I can't even wish him to step on Legos or to stub his toe for whatever personal disagreements we have. So generally speaking, I want to see him succeed, but it's been weird. Some of these have been, I understand a couple here or there. It happens, but this is just not. When I first brought this up, I remember you guys said, "Hey, he's one of the most historically one of the most accurate kickers in NFL history." That number has dropped pretty.
It only just takes one season, and all of a sudden just can drop so hard. Yeah.
Yeah. So I appreciate Butker for his play on the field. There just needs to be honest conversations about his performance at the end of the day. Politics aside, I understand. I do. But hopefully he makes all of his kicks this week. Maybe that's what we should start. That should be one of our little picks. Will Butker miss a kick? Yes or no? Probably make some money on that.
There's a good chance, actually. Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. The kicker position is such a fickle one. You can do so well, and then as soon as you have a bad streak, the fan base whole turns on you, and you need to go, which, it is an important position. That's kind of your one thing, is to kick the ball through the uprights. So, based off of Butker's history, I could say you could be confident that he'll figure it out soon. It's just haven't happened yet. And it's just going to be something to monitor. There's been a couple games that we've lost by 3 points, and there has been a missed kick in those games. There's been games that there's been a missed kick and we've won by a lot of points, and it doesn't really matter. So as long as they keep on happening in games that it doesn't necessarily matter if he misses the kick, then he's going to be fine. But, all of a sudden, if it's like a game-winning kick that it comes down to and he misses that, and then, it's going to get really loud. It's going to get even more loud than it already has. So I'm definitely wishing the best for Butker. Best kicker in Chiefs history, easily one of the most clutch kickers in Chiefs in all of NFL history. If you really look at all of his kicks in the Super Bowls and stuff like that, and playoffs. So based on history, I think he'll get it right.
Yeah, his percentage right now is a whole 10 points lower than his career average. He's shaved off almost half a percentage point overall in his career just with this season. We haven't seen him kick this bad since 2022 when he was injured and missed a couple of games. So he's sitting at 78.6% on the season. Some things to tweak and figure out for sure.
Yep. Okay, well, let's get to the dessert of this show, the score predictions. Let's go ahead and knock it out. So before we do that, let me give you a couple stats here. The over-under for the game is 45.5. So not big, not huge. The Chiefs might be able to get that by themselves, so we'll see. And the spread is the Chiefs are 12.5 point favorites. So that's a pretty big spread. Obviously, the game's in Arrowhead. It's a noon kickoff game. So that's how that Vegas is kind of interpreting it. Tom, how do you interpret this game going?
Um,
And while you think
well,
about that, Kyle will give his prediction of 33-17 Chiefs, which would that would hit the over. So that's interesting.
I yeah, I'm gonna go. Let's see. I'm doing math here.
Okay.
Um,
This is the
I'm
sound of
gonna
math
go
happening.
34-24, Kansas City.
34-24.
I
Okay.
think, I think the Chiefs will get kind of a garbage time touchdown. It could go the other way. I'm just kind of thinking, hey, it's a rivalry game. Could go all kinds of weird things could happen. But yeah, 34-24 Chiefs.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good. I mean, that's a lot of points. I feel like from the Raiders, but I can understand your reasoning of the garbage time scoring from them potentially. I don't think that ever happened. I'm gonna go pretty skewed. I think, but it's gonna be. I'm trying to do math in my head here of what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, you know, somewhere along the lines of like, I guess I'm thinking like 34-10, which would be the under. Because I just think there'll probably be a point that we're the game is established. We're out with a decent lead, and then they kind of let their foot off the gas, and we don't love that when they do that, but obviously conservation is a big thing. So we'll see. It might get a little more intense. It might. I don't know. I anticipate the Chiefs scoring early and often and frequently throughout the entire game until they just don't need to anymore. So I'll go 34-10 for that one. As Kyle says, Geno scoring 24 time is going to be it's going to be a bold one. But you've made some bold decisions here on the podcast before and bold takes on the podcast before. So, it wouldn't be the most unfound thing.
I don't know if Geno scores 24, but somebody scores.
Someone might, yeah. Someone will figure out how to score 24 on the Raiders side potentially. So that's what we got. That's it. That's everything that for you for the game. Before we get out of here, we'll just quickly shout out our partners at Underdog. Shout out to Underdog. We've been rocking with them for a little bit of time now, and they're a great app. They're one of the biggest fantasy apps in the world. They have so many things that you can do on there. I mean, they have pick'ems and fantasy and all these different types of events and fun things that they got going on. They got specials every week. They got a great deposit bonus right now. Actually, if you use our code kingdomsays when you sign up for Underdog, you can get, if you just put in $5, you get $100 in bonus funds that you can use to play with and do whatever you want on there. There's so many unlimited possibilities, not only NFL, but every sport is on there. Even some ones that are a little obscure that you might not think of, they're probably on there, and you can probably play with them and just kind of get a little bit closer to the action, as they say. Just another way to kind of connect, have a little more stake in the game. Just have a little more vested interest, as they say. You're just having a good play over at Underdog, and it's you can just kind of use your brain and use your knowledge of the NFL. There's a lot of easy one. I mean, you just choose a couple players, you choose their higher or lower on some yardage stuff, and that's it. It's super easy, super simple, not very complicated at all. You can get started. It's legal in many states, a lot more legal than some things are in some apps. So it's check it out. Use code kingdomsays when you sign up. Play $5, you get $100 in bonus funds. So with that, I think that's everything. Tom, is that everything? I think we did it.
I think we did it.
I
Yeah,
think we
no,
did it.
good.
So
Go team.
yeah, everyone have a great weekend. Obviously, show up for that great game at Arrowhead. I'm sure the weather's going to be nice. I don't know what the weather. I heard that it's still hot in Kansas City. Tom, is that true?
It is warmer than it should be in the fall. Hopefully, it'll cool off a little bit. But it's not been bad.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a nice chilly, like 70 or something for the game, which would be
We're in the 80s this week, which is
really
offensive.
Yeah, that's even hotter than it's been out here almost. I mean, it's been like low 80s, high 70s out here in Arizona. So that's crazy. And obviously, the Raiders are used to the heat. So noon o'clock kickoff time in Arrowhead, and should be a good one. So we appreciate everyone rocking with us tonight. Be sure to follow us at Kingdom Says Pod, Facebook, X, Instagram. Check us out. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcasts at. We will be there. Especially check us out on YouTube, though. You can be watching our beautiful faces and just a little bit better way to support us. We really appreciate the YouTube viewership. But however you support Kingdom Says, we greatly appreciate you. Let's keep on rocking and rolling this season. And we will see you guys next week recap Raiders week and all the festivities and everything like that. And should be a dang good time. So have a great rest of your night, everybody. If you're watching live, or have a great morning, or whatever you're at when you're watching this after the fact. And yeah, we will see you guys in the next episode.